Hello ladies and gentlemen, my name is Dan, the voice behind ThatKaitoDan, and welcome at last to my first review for RWBY Volume 4 on the episode The Next Step. Just a few things first though. I'm going to be making full reactions to the episodes now, after I did one for Volume 3's finale. However, in accordance with suggestions by Rooster Teeth themselves, and out of respect for them, the reaction video will come out when the YouTube release of the episode drops. It's only fair since they're so supportive and respectful to us RWBY tubers when it comes to using their content for our material, and I want to respect their wishes. And it's fair too for first members, since this stops people bypassing the exclusivity by watching the episode through reactions. That being said, all review and analysis videos will come out as soon as they are made, same as ever, since they don't use video footage. Also, later on today, I will do an analysis for the Volume 4 opening, so be on the lookout for that. I'll put a link to it right here. And finally, it should go without saying, but don't watch this video if you want to avoid being spoiled. So let's finally dive into the first review of a brand new volume. Let's talk about that opening scene. An excellent way in my opinion to start things off, with returning to the landscape that we ended on the last volume with. There's some cool slime effects here with the Grim formed out of the black bog, and we pan out to our first set piece, Salem's gathering of her inner circle for the next move in their plan. Yes folks, we got some new villains joining in on the fun in this amazingly hellish building. I love the bony chairs, the purple rocks that glow ominously as the table, Salem's chair, and along the sides with candles on them, and it all goes off well against the blood red sky coming through the windows. Lovely design work here. So before I go into the new faces and the group goals, let's talk about the returning faces. Firstly, we saw Emerald and Mercury, who definitely don't look comfy in this twisted world. It has to be their first time here. Also, Mercury's eyebrows are kinda distinct. They're a tad bit distracting, but nothing to really go nuts over. These two are of course joining Cinder, who looks majorly messed up after her run-in with Ruby's untapped Silver Eyes power. She's got shorter hair and a new dress that covers up more of her body, but there's a giant scar on her face, and we hear that she's also missing an eye, thus the eye patch too. Not only that, but Cinder can barely speak, and Emerald has to serve as the Vixen's interpreter. Amazing to think that the same woman that once broke Beacon with so much confidence and wounded the hero so badly is so beaten up here, much to the pleasure it seems of her own allies. The first new face is Dr. Watts, voiced by Christopher Sabat, who has played many roles like Vegeta from the world of Dragon Ball, Zoro from One Piece, and Armstrong from the Fullmetal Alchemist series. This well-groomed gentleman isn't shy with his negative reception to Cinder, taking shots at the wounded Four Maiden and calling her a failure for being bested by a little girl. He'll likely be the more intellectual opposing force that our heroes will have to deal with. I wonder though if he's inspired by Dr. Frankenstein, since he is a doctor, and Watts could be referring to the voltage term, since electricity played into the doctor's tale. Then there's this nutjob. Already a villain I'm really excited to see more of. Tyrion, voiced by Josh Grell, who has performed as Armin from Attack on Titan, Demigra from Dragon Ball Xenoverse, and Tanukichi from Shimonetta. This guy is nuttier than a fruitcake, with his jittery mannerisms, the way he sits ready to pounce, and the sick, gleeful laugh that he has. It all screams he's a guy who loves to kill, and doesn't care about anything else but his own sick enjoyment. He joins in with a ribbing of Cinder too, and he's got some of the best facial expressions in this entire episode. So lively and crazy, and I just love it. I always enjoy watching these kind of warped characters, and I cannot wait to see what Tyrion brings to the table. And the final new face is Hazel, a calm, burly and deep-voiced man, though sadly we don't know who his voice actor is yet. He doesn't say much, but he does add his own feelings on Ruby's Silver Eyes power, noting that they've dealt with their kind before. So instantly I started wondering if these guys are responsible for Summer's death, the only other noted silver-eyed warrior. It also seems that there are others out there beyond just RWBY. If they're alive, they could be handy to help RWBY control her unique gift. But to know that the villains are aware of the power means that we could see them being capable opponents next time RWBY unleashes that power, since they've already had to deal with a professional. It's key to note though that there are 6 chairs on the sides of the table. We have Watts, Cinder, Hazel and Tyrion, but who could those 2 remaining seats be for? It's not Salem, since she's seen later at the top of the table, and Mercury and Emerald stand by Cinder's side, and with this being their first time, they honestly wouldn't have needed the seats beforehand. So out of the possible known prospects, the obvious 2 could be Adam and Raven, though Raven's allegiance is still unknown, and Adam was a new addition recruited by Cinder. So I rule those 2 out for the time being. Most likely these are 2 currently unknown members that we'll see down the line. By the way, shout out to Murderer Birds for this one. Arnold noted that if you add the 4 members' initials from the team together, you make WTCH, or Team Witch. A fitting name for a group under Salem's command, the Wicked Witch named after the famous witch trials, who makes her appearance at last. The ghostly white leader claims Cinder a victor despite her current wounds and what's his feeling on the matter, noting her becoming the new Four Maiden of course, toppling Beacon, and even saying that she killed Ozpin. Now, I highly doubt that Ozpin is dead, and he's just somewhere else in whatever condition. But that's an intriguing statement that Salem's making, after saying that she can't wait to watch him burn last volume. Does she really think he's dead, or is this just her playing a ruse even over her own allies, knowing full well that the headmaster is just currently missing in action? Regardless, Cinder is in no condition to handle any further tasks, and needs treatment, so she's gonna be on the sidelines while the others get their tasks. Dr. Watts will take Cinder's role and go to Mistral to meet an informant, likely one of the 2 members that could fill the empty seats, while Hazel will join up with Adam to meet with the leader of the White Fang, Sienna Khan, to convince them to join the Masked Swordsman in siding with Salem. So we know that Adam is still on board with the villain's schemes, and Salem wants the full support of the White Fang, no doubt to help add more strain on the divide grown between the kingdoms and the differing races. Keep in mind that this is supposedly the leader that took over the White Fang and turned it from its more peaceful protesting days into the group known as more of a terrorist faction. And finally, Tyrion's plans change from being on the hunt for the Spring Maiden to go and bring RWBY back to Salem alive, much to Tyrion's displeasure. So we know that the Spring Maiden is going to be the next one of focus now, after Salem managed to get the Four Maiden in her grasp. And we can expect Team Ranger at some point to come across Tyrion and Watts in Mistral, since they are heading there themselves, with Haven the next target that Salem wants to see fall after Beacon. One awesome psychotic laugh from Tyrion later, and suddenly we switch to everyone's favourite character, Random Farm Boy. Who the hell is this kid? There has to be some reason why he's the next person that we see after that opening set piece, but the scene is mostly him just tending to his farm work, again more proof to the ability of having a stable life outside of the kingdoms. There's different avenues to ponder on with this kid's identity. He's obviously keyed to some degree, and he has some interesting colouring to his eyes, being a mixture of green and yellow. Some think he's tied to the Spring Maiden, maybe even it's her kid, and some think that he's tied to Ozpin, perhaps as a reincarnation or a temporary vessel to rest in after the battle with Cinder. Honestly, it's kinda too early to know for sure, but I am kinda siding with the Spring Maiden element in some shape or form, since he does have those eyes. Monty did say that the eyes are a key area to focus on in this series, and he is tending to nature just like the OG Spring did. It's a simple scene with its true worth sure to come, but hey, at least we got some lovely soothing music over some fantastic lighting and visuals. Now we head over to a foresty area in Mistral and the first sighting of Ren, Nora and Jean, the sloth pair debating currently on the new team name. It's a very anime-styled bit of humour, especially with the text pop-in, but it makes for a charming moment. It also makes for a nice warm moment later on too, and it eases off any worries that the heroes won't have any kind of humour at all moving forward, after the more intense moments of the past. Plus, the discussion on the team name actually calls into notice in show about the theming of colors being key when it comes to team names, which helps make for a nice connection to Montiom's actual ruling. A very nice touch that helps the terms feel more special. And we get our first look at the trio in the Maya program, and they all look amazing. Fantastic work is here with some more top-notch facial animation. Though notably, Jean isn't in his new gear yet, nor does he have his weapon. More on that later, because RWBY makes her grand appearance, and she's accompanied by a giant golem of a Grimm. Hot damn, that is awesome! Grimm that isn't based on an animal, and not only that, but it's actually a possession-type spirit Grimm called a Geist, kinda like Poltergeist, which can take over objects and wreak shop with it, just like it's shown here with it inhabiting rocks, and as per the word of Miles himself, this form is actually called Petra Gigas, or Rock Giant in Greek. It's a badass concept, especially with it using nature as a weapon against the good guys, and it makes for a nice tough opponent for Team Ranger. Not only does it make good use of the rock hard defenses, but it's massive, taking on a lot of blows from the Swift Raven, the Bullforce Nora, or the sharpshooting RWBY, as she shows off some new ammo with electric and fire-based dust. Poor Jean though can't do much. He has no weapon, and even after Nora decks out one arm, the Geist can reform itself with other parts. It at least gives us this reaction though from Jean, which I know for a fact is going to be a meme image for a long time, and it's probably the best expression in the entire episode. But thankfully we see Jean is still a growing tactical mind, and with the right plan to cripple the beast, the final strike comes in. A super cool team attack with RWBY and Nora, mixing up the Reaper's Red Tornado move with a newly upgraded supercharged Magenhild to dominate the Titan and leave the guys primed for a kill shot. Overall, this was a really fun fight to welcome us back with once again. It's not the most flashy of fights, but it's with some top-notch angles for some added flair, and for what it set out to do in terms of a showcase for the new team and the new Grimm, it was a great battle to show what we can expect with from them, as well as future episodes. This battle actually came as a job that the team took on for a nearby village that the Geist was affecting. And hey, it looks like I was correct about Mistral looking largely Asian themed, with robed villagers and the leader garbed in a monk-like attire. The village won't leave their current area for the more safer Mistral though, as the leader feels that Anima, the continent that Mistral is on, is too big for them to cope with traveling through, and their way of life here is stable enough to be content. The payment for the job, by the way? Well, it turns out that's why Jean was handicapped in the fight. Brand new gear from the local blacksmith, who I'm gonna call Wang Fire because he's got a similar looking beard to Sokka's Fire Nation persona in Avatar. Anyway, in changing out of his chestplate, we finally see the answer to one of the biggest mysteries in the entire RWBY world. What is that grey design poking out from under that armor? And yeah, when I saw it, I was laughing, and yet I was definitely sad at the same time. Because it turns out that it's not Jean's true emblem or some grand design, it's actually Pumpkin Pete, the rabbit mascot of the cereal that Pyrrha was notably once on the box of. It's a heart-wrenching connection between the two, and I can't understand why they kept it a secret until after Pyrrha's death, and yet it actually leads into some more charming laughs and anime-esque imagery. The heartache doesn't stop there though, because Jean's weapon got an upgrade too. A brand new stylish gold trim to the hilt and gold accents for the shield, all thanks to Pyrrha. Her remaining golden accessories and weapons used to toughen up Jean's gear. Again, it's a really painful twist in the knife in the wound, but I love it so much. It truly cements the impact that Pyrrha made on Jean and the pain of her loss, and yet it is a symbolic element that will help the wounds heal over time. Jean has grown since his early days, and a lot of that comes from the love and support that his partner gave him. Now she'll live on as a part of him, emotionally and physically. Pyrrha is Jean's shield and sword, and he is now her living legacy, and it's a powerful moment that should mean a lot for Jean's continued growth as a person and as a true huntsman. So yeah, we finally see Jean's new look in better detail. The new touches to crochet moors and the sturdier chestplate joins up with some new footwear, the pauldron on his shield arm while his sword arm lacks one for mobility's sake, some bracers, new gloves, and of course the red sash that serves as another tribute to his lost friend. Now fully geared up, it's time to hit the dirt road. No matter what this team is called, they're united together, and are heading off to the nearby Xi'an village, which hopefully has some work in transport for them to get to Haven. A mention of the Schnee Dust Company though saddens RWBY, no doubt missing Weiss and I'm sure the others from her team too. And on the note of the heiress, we jump north to Atlas and catch Miss Schnee looking on somberly herself, before being interrupted by her butler Klein. He's voiced by J. Michael Tatum, the voice behind roles like France from the Italia series, Kyoya from Oran High School Host Club, and Sebastian from Black Butler. Sadly, Klein isn't bringing any cake. Instead, he mentions that Weiss's father wants a word with his youngest daughter. A discussion saved for next episode, as it seems that's all for now. Guys, this was a really fun welcome back to the show for me, and it served its purpose well. After such an intense final run of episodes last volume, we needed to start seeing the breadcrumbs of what we will soon see in this grander story, and what lies ahead for this newly open world. And I think we got that. It was wise to open up with Salem's group, because we needed to know right away the next targets that they had, and what we can expect from her lot, as well as the fate of Cinder, Emerald and Mercury. Now we know who else we should watch out for, what kind of personalities they have, and more. And I welcome that it also seems that Cinder will be benched as she recovers from her wounds, as this gives us more time with the others, seeing as we had 3 volumes with Cinder. We know now what the possible threats are that our heroes will face, and with it the current state of Ranger too, after parting from Patch. This was a very effective episode for these 4, as it let us glance at the new dynamics that they share in social moments and in combat, each one with their own roles in battles. And they make for a solid team, which makes sense given they already had a close bond in the past, and they also had the time skip. RWBY feels like a well-placed element into the once Team Juniper, and the trio bounce off RWBY's skills with perfection, helping us feel more settled in their future contests that will be much more important than this clash with the Geist. Again, it wasn't the most jaw-dropping of fights in the series, but it didn't need to be. Just a simple concept of showing off the foursome's capabilities with a brand new threat. The strongest positive comes from the human side of the episode though. For one, the comfort that the comedy is still going to be an element in the show. And of course, the episode had some pleasing if not gut-wrenching emotion carried too. This is the first time seeing these lot after Beacon's fall and the loss of many friends, either forever or just temporary. The legacy of Pyrrha living on through Jean will definitely be a strong landmark for these guys in their growth, especially Jean. And it was handled respectfully to the character as well, with enough softness to let us feel sad that Pyrrha's gone, but also happy that Jean and co are taking their memories alongside them. Similar too with the pain of seeing Team RWBY splintered through just a simple expression on both RWBY and Weiss's face. We didn't need any words to know the emotion on display, which is definitely worth approving. Especially due to some golden immersive background pieces from the music team, especially with what seems to be a remix of Divide for Salem's theme. And of course some outstanding animation and visuals. Yeah, it's still gonna take some time to get fully used to the switch to Maya, but it's brought with it some outstanding quality in the backgrounds and the facial expressions, not to mention the mouth movements as well. It made Tyrion that much more screwed in the head, Jean that much more worried, and RWBY that much more adorably goofy. The motions feel buttery smooth too, and it flows much nicer than before. And the cinematography alone is top notch in this episode, with expertly applied angles for some added surveillance of the landscape or the fast-paced combat. And to cap off the final thoughts, it's time once again for my voice acting praise of the episode, the segment that I used to shine a light on the performance that I most loved or most appreciated in the episode. And while I could have easily have shined it on any of the major cast in this episode, I'm going to highlight Josh Grell as Tyrion. Yes, the vicious madman nutter type isn't exactly the most rare of character tropes, but in tandem with some outrageously animated facial expressions, Josh instantly sold what we can expect from this sadistic member of Salem's forces. He is capable of showing that he can rein it in, like when he was upset that RWBY had to come in alive, not dead, and in respect to his mistress, while still having that air of malicious intent to him. So we know Josh can still do the role well, even if the villain can't exactly be 100% crazy. So top stuff there, Josh. It was a simple episode that not only welcomed viewers back with open arms to celebrate the return, but it also set up nicely what we can expect from the new faces to fear, the evil intentions to worry about, and the emotionally tested heroes being ready to fight on after a big moment etched in their past. Volume 4 is already looking to be a bigger adventure, and I'm glad that the quality is matching up to it. It's the next step that proved to be a thoroughly entertaining one. And that's it, folks. My first review for the volume is under wraps. Of course, these are just my thoughts. What are all of yours? Did the volume open up strong in your eyes, or did it not measure up? Leave your comments down below, and please do so respectfully. Also, like and fave the video if you wish, subscribe and click on the bell to know when new uploads are out, and follow me on Twitter at ThatKaitoDan to hear more on RWBY, anything else that I have my mind on, as well as updates on future videos. And be sure to click here to check out my analysis on the Volume 4 opening if you haven't already. Until next time though, have a good day or good night, and peace out.